Okay, take 3. Please look at my signs. I pulled 3 cards one from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck, number 16, Empty Well. Now I'll just say it all over again. I didn't say the number thing, but it's 1 and 16 breaks down to 7, and I forgot to do... Oh, well, it doesn't matter because I accidentally deleted that. Forget about it! Anyway, I thought when I first looked at this, like, what I felt like I saw was definitely the bottom of a well. I could see that. But what I also saw was a spiral, and we usually associate the word with a downward spiral. But recently I was reminded that a spiral goes both ways. If you've ever uncorked a bottle of wine with a hand corkscrew and the cork was actual cork, you know that you can screw it in and unscrew it out the same way it went in. So spirals go both ways. And this to me looks like an upward spiral. And that is like such a bright blue-white light. And as it's radiating outward in concentric circles, I guess you could say, it's getting a little darker. But it's moving into this darker area that looks like it's... Well, anyway. That, it says time to replenish, empty well, but that's not what I really see. I see an upward spiral where the replenishing or the plenishing has happened, and it's not in the bottom of anywhere. It's like levitating inside there in the air. It may burst upwards. Who knows? It could do anything it wants. It is filled with spirit light, so I imagine it can do anything. But I'm going to read you what the guidebook has to say, just so you can know where I differed from it. And at some point here with the other 2 cards that I pulled, I hope to converge everything. So for Empty Well, and do you think I remember to get something to drink? Hold on. Okay, now I have a drink. And so I'm going to read from the guidebook about the Empty Well card. Will you please come with me? Thank you. Empty Well. Nothing... Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, that was right. Nothing here. Time to replenish. Diminishing yourself for another. The empty well reveals that there is nothing here for you. The well is dry, and the desert is encroaching upon your once fertile garden. It is time to face this harsh reality and move on. Give gratitude and thanks for the abundance you've experienced, and let Spirit guide you onto your next destination. This might mean saying goodbye to someone or something, or insisting on changing the rules of the game. Stop diminishing yourself for the sake of another. Making yourself small will not produce the results you want. There's a lack of reciprocity. Reciprocity. Well, that looked weird. Of give and take. There's a lack of reciprocity of give and take. The empty well tells you that it's time to reclaim what is yours, and reclaim what does not belong to you. Return what does not belong to you. The shadows cast in your direction are not of your making. You do not need to react or respond to them, as they are not real. Simply shine your light upon them and see how it dispels them. These shadows are projections that you are confusing for reality. You may have been offered a shovel to help dig yourself out of an uncomfortable situation, a bucket to drink from the well. But you cannot dig yourself out of this hole, and remember that there's no water to be found in that well. Receive the empty well as a gift. Do not exert your energy and waste your resources by repairing the walls or mending the rope. Follow the watercourse way, the aquifers that run deep in the earth, and you will be led to a new spring oasis. You can find these underground streams, these natural resources, in the subterranean depths of your own heart. So, I'm saying this is not empty to me. And the way that I read this, empty well, time to replenish, and even from some of what this guidebook had to say, was that the well was empty because of burnout and because you had no more to give. And there was definitely something to submitting so much to anyone or anything that you lose yourself. For sure that exists. But what I am feeling and seeing is that, here, let me focus my thoughts here on what I actually saw that triggered the thought. Just a second, please. Okay, so the empty well tells you it is time to reclaim what is yours and return what doesn't belong to you. And that's, for me, that's the learning process. And whomever or whatever it was that you've submitted to, that it sounds like you have like given over your autonomy to, your authority. That happens sometimes, and the thing you don't want to do is fall into it like quicksand and not be able to extricate yourself. There's always a time where you will have to in some way submit or cooperate with another individual or in a situation. And it may not be the thing that you want to do, but it maybe definitely is the thing that you have to do, because it's a matter of life and death situation, like necessity, like what you feel like doing and what you want and who you would rather be doing it with or not is irrelevant, because sometimes you have to let go of your ego and like let somebody else be in charge that knows better, or just happens to be in the situation in a physically better position to positively affect the outcome. Like sometimes you can't just be all, but I'm always in charge, I always know. Well, sometimes that's not the situation. Like sometimes you're on the bottom of the pile and you can't reach up through people or height or water or whatever the obstacle is to reach the switch that fixes stuff. Like maybe it's just not your time. And so that doesn't mean you're empty, burned out, or useless. They didn't say useless before, but this is a feeling that I know that we get as people, because once we get upset about it, we tend to compound the error by going, I can't do this, and you know what else I can't do this and that and the other thing, and so also says I can't. Like, we'll just go crazy with it. So here and now, eyes on your own paper, and concentrate on what led up to and what transpired during the situation you were submitting to, because you are learning something always. You know, like if you're at the bottom of the pile and you're griping about how you can't be how you usually are at the top of the pile, and it's like, that is when you are supposed to notice that, yeah, we know about the top of the pile, but that's not where you are here and now. Like, you kind of really gotta pay attention to the situation that's, you know, read the room you're in. read the room. So, that's what I have to say about that. But hold that thought. I also got that otter card. So, just because I already love otters, I think of simple happiness and joy. And, pardon me, before I pulled this card, I had been thinking about it, so I don't know, I guess I feel like information comes in waves, and sometimes the waves have reverberations. But anyway, I was thinking of how we'll take the otter for instance. They are the happy, cute little animal. I mean, we just don't have bad, upsetting stories about otters. But let's face it, they are prey in the water. But the way they live their lives and their companionable way with each other, and it's, their family and tribe, and they love each other. And they're so protective of each other. And so it is like the superior thing to think about them in terms of their life, in terms of positive and less positive, where they're the prey animal. But that's something that can't be escaped. Like, they exist in the water to some degree to be the prey, because that is just the circle of life. Like, you can't be removing links and expect things to work properly in a car, in a bicycle chain, in the circle of life. So I'm just saying, rather than think about what could be their demise and all the cute and happy, and I don't know about you, but I get a lot of pleasure from just watching them be like in their habitat in the water, and how they do the back float and like crack open their clam lunch with shells on their chest, like until the shell breaks, and then they have little hands, so they just pick it up, and it is adorable. Also a great stress reducer. Their voices will just crush you. It's so sweet. And all of that, my goodness, look how it's framed. It's like, I am a good boy of happiness for you. Like, even the little picture he's putting on his best face. But it's about the energy, I think, of the otter, where you will have this empty well situation, and not everyone's going to see it the way I do. Not at the beginning of discovering that they're in an empty well, but eventually, along the way, you'll look back at the time when you've been subdued or submissive because you've had to be, and instead of getting worked up about it, see what the best thing you can get up out of it, because there's always something. And as far as what I was thinking about, not necessarily the otter, but just about happiness in sort of adversarial situations, and it's been coming to mind a lot. There's a lot in the world to look at where the fairness human to human is just not there. I don't know how that we can do this. Like, I don't think I could ever like have a bad enough feeling about someone that I would not want them to be able to live in some kind of peace and happiness. But there's always been in our society, and I blame this on capitalism, because capitalism hasn't only be, it's not just a way of like exchanging currency and trade. It's become our way of life. Like, we are some of us, like people that are way into the capitalism, they want to remove the humanity completely, because that way, if they don't have to have humanity to deal with and be empathetic to, then if there's a problem and they're approached, like, the more distant they are, the more robotic they are. In fact, put an AI between the landlord and the renter, or whatever the dynamic is, but the landowner and the person trying to live on the land. If they have a buffer between pain and suffering of this other person that they barely, I'm sorry, rich people, but it's true, you barely care about other people than you and yourself. I'm not going to argue the point. Well, there's no one here to argue it with, but if you disagree, then I will concede that I'm sorry. You think I'm wrong about my opinion. You're welcome to do that. So, that's like a new thing. Like, they literally are using AI to achieve that heartless goal that I was just talking about. But back in the dusty past of wooden floors and, you know, nailed together shacks with, I was gonna say stray wood, if that makes any sense, but just like whatever you find that look like. I'm thinking of something that I saw, and it was like a black and white silent film, very short, of a really poor black family, and you could see that this was not put on what they did. I think what happened was this videographer arrived where these people lived and came upon them and was definitely there to do. I mean, I hope it wasn't like a Jesse Waters hit piece, but he could have walked up on these people and said, "Hey, could you can I take pictures of you with my moving pictures camera? Could you dance for me?" Or he could have walked up, and because when you live in a shack and you don't have electricity and plumbing, you might have some wires nailed to the side of your building to create a makeshift guitar, or be blowing on some kind of bottle to make a sound, or you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not talking Boston Pop's orchestral equipment here. We're not even talking anywhere near a budget for something like that. We're talking dirt poor, as in the floor is dirt. Like, when you clean, you have to, sweep the dirt on the floor. Like, you could see, maybe it was my imagination embellishing, but this shack that these people lived in, I felt like I could see the holes the wind whistled through. And it wasn't like that was real. Like, those people living in that house, and it was very small, and there was like a young couple, because there was kids, and there was an old man that was kind of around with the kids in front of this little shack, and I think the older man played some kind of instrument. I'm trying to make sure I'm not just dreaming this up, but at any rate, he was sitting on a crate just outside the door of this narrow shack these people lived in, and the kids came out and started just dancing in front of them, the way you might see, like, today, kids in New Orleans that are out tap dance busking, basically, on the tourist section. So it would look like that, but I don't know that these kids were busking. They were just home, and what do you do at the end of the workday to entertain yourself? I imagine you get the Bible read to you, or you talk about work and gossip or whatever, and somebody can make some music, somebody can sing, somebody can dance, and that's what you did. But the point is those people looked happy, and that's why I made the Jesse Waters crack, because I didn't know if it was somebody, the videographer, going in there to look at these people and take away from this natural, true joy that they had by coming in and looking on them like, oh, look at these poor whatever people, like, I don't even want to think of whatever they could have come up with. But I just thought it was important to remember, if just for myself, that whenever you think you're at the end and you have nothing, maybe spiral up, because the alternative that you immediately have that's going to cost you the least is to change your mind, change your perspective. And so, even if you are at the bottomest bottom, You can still be really happy. There can be joy in perceived misery or misery, because otherwise, how are you human with just horribly sad and depressing and terrible thoughts populating your mind? Like, you gotta take a detour or you'll lose your freaking fracking mind. And so the last card I pulled was my this from the Rider-Waite style tarot. It's not called that deck, it's generic, but it uses those same cards, and it's the Seven of Cups. And that's what I feel like a lot of this reading, it's it hasn't been hard to separate things, but it's been hard not to notice that the cards apply to my personal situation right now, which is I have choices, and for now I know, just a second. For now I know exactly what I want to do and what I'm going to do. But I'm aware that I have an upcoming choice to make. And that applies to all of us because the situation is fluid. Like, you have so many things, so much swirling around, and out of all the swirl arises choices. And, you know, depending on who you are in your situation, or the time of day, or where you are, or what you've had to eat, or what you haven't had to eat. Like, you have so many choices even affecting your choices right now. And not just choices, I mean, definitely you have a choice as to what information you're going to take in and how you're going to let it affect you. But if you look at it in the same way as I have described the fabric of reality, the fabric of reality is not just one thin, you know, sheet of fabric. It may look that way, but maybe on the quantum level, it's larger than you can conceive of, thicker, more plush. This is like more to it than what it appears to be, and that's how quantum is so vexing. Well, not for me. Like, I think I kind of get it, but it can be. I mean, certainly the first time I heard about Schrodinger's cat in the box, I was like, whoa, okay, that just split my brain. But then I was like, okay, I'll just think about it with my brain split. And that decision made it easier to think about. I don't know if that's going to work for anybody else. But anyway, tableau laid out, okay? This is like the whole thing I was leading up to. So now I will read what it says about the otter. Unobstructed joy, playfulness. Perhaps the most joyful creature within the animal spirit deck, the otter represents absolute bliss. Otter energy is the playfulness of a child, available to us at any age. They have a giddiness and reverence for life itself, without the presence of doubt, worry, or skepticism. Imagine yourself with a little more otter energy. What would life look like? What would it take to bring you there? The otter card begs these questions and wants to transport us to that precious place as soon as possible. The celebration awaits. When in balance, full of love, needs nothing. When out of balance, gloomy, sighs, make silly excuses. To bring into balance, dance party or celebration. I'm not much of a dancer, so that's about what you get. I'm more of a nodder. So, I mean, I pretty much said all that I needed to say regarding today's topic, but I guess on a final note, it's probably in the next weeks and months, gonna get very strange. Lots of stuff on the political scene that we have never looked at before and seen with our eyes is happening, is gonna continue to do so. And there's a lot of players, so if you think of one big name on the political scene right now that you think is about to get in trouble, and it looks, signs point to pretty good they're going to get in trouble, take note, because they probably are. And also, whoever was attached to them pretty much in any kind of way, because you are going to see people flip like floppers. I don't know. What flips? Dolphins? People turning on their co-conspirators? That's the kind of flip I'm talking about. And I didn't mean to be so flippant making my statement. Oh, who am I kidding? I totally did. And snarky. I meant to be flip and snarky. So there. Alright, I'm getting carried away. Thank you and good night.